Poem 9 Lessons and Carol. Carol was feeling rather overwhelmed by all the supposed festivity, cooking and scrubbing, present wrapping, whilst other folk were out at parties. She quietly cursed all the nonsense about Jesus and the Nativity, costing so much money for a myth so regularly. So it was with quiet acceptance she took the opportunity to accept an invite from within her local community, a visit to Malmesbury Abbey, quietly hoping it would not be too happy-clappy, for some music event called 9 Lessons and Carols. Whatever the title's beginning, at least it seemed to end well. So she scrubbed up and swigged back some port, just as her mother had, essentially taught, pulling on her best mothballed frock, not really the cash or time to check for new stock. Carol rushed into the crisp night air, then ran back inside to redo her hair. Then also to find some sort of suitable cloak. It was freezing out there, really not a joke. So having taken the step, quite out of breath, she stumbled into the ancient abbey, bristling a little in case any nutty Christian tried to get her happy-clappy. To stop with her jaw dropping, eyes wide, total surprise, the place was packed with people inside. And typical, so bloody typical, not any sign of her friend. She pondered leaving, going home again. But someone put a pamphlet into her hand. "There's a seat over there, unless you want to stand." So Carol took off her cloak, walked down the aisle, then noticed the seat next to some bloke. And some didn't really begin to be fair, with his dirty clothes and matted, stacked hair. Tattoos upon a parched elephant's skin, grey from the cold, smelling of gin. He shuffled to make room. She was quite sure this wouldn't do, but someone tutted behind, "Please sit down, if you don't mind." So Carol sat squat, trying not to look, eyes averted. She picked up a book. You couldn't write it. How bloody typical. Now she was there, reading a Bible. Only been in the place for a few minutes, but it was that or talk to the chap. Carol held her nose, then sat back, trying to take care of her well-groomed hair. Some bloke wearing a dress and a sort of a cloak stood up the front. Was this some sort of joke? But then he began to impart the lights would go out, all to sit in the dark. And Carol felt fear rapidly appear. Her childhood screams now seemed so near. She clutched the Bible, praying for light. Then the bloke spoke, gave such a bright fright. "Are you scared of the dark, missus? Please don't fret. We all get candles. All be fine." Then he belched loudly, handing over a muddy paw. "Have mine. I'm sure there'll be more." So shaking badly, she held her candle. Then music started. Was it by Handel? Apparently a pastoral symphony from the Messiah. She was enchanted as the music flew higher. And she felt a feeling of contentment descend. Not only that, but she'd made a new friend. "Once in Royal David's City," sang out. Carol loved this, one of her favourite ditties. But then she jumped once again as all sorts of folk brushed past, all wearing dresses. Then she realised upon reflection it was the choir and the old bloke in some sort of procession. Her shackles raised once again as they started to all say the Lord's Prayer. But her new friend smiled, his wrinkly eyes crinkly, gap-toothed gin grin. Then came a hin. He whispered to her, smiling, "Sing up, lassie. None of us can sing well here. That's why the choir." So Carol opened her throat. Her voice came out in a high-pitched sort of croak. And as she sang, her confidence increased. As the evening continued, her fears seemed released. Her rap became a contentment. She seemed to lose life's resentments. So the evening progressed. Lots of reading, singing. Then they started again to process. Lots of moving this evening within the church building, but this time the older bloke stood in the dress and his strange sort of cloak, stopped next to her. Carol was at some sort of loss. Above her head now stood a cross. She listened to some words by some bloke called John. She chuckled a little. It was probably quite wrong, but then it was odd, for the words spoke of God in the beginning, and a word. Maybe she'd heard. What would her family say? They'd all call it absurd, then expect her to go back to those dishes. Now there was something she'd pray for, one of her wishes. But not much happened, other than she became much more aware of the man beside her, next to her chair. Carol noticed he seemed to have changed. His eyes were dazzling, feeling quite strange, and she had so little choice, she felt deep inside touched by a quiet little voice. Now Carol was scared, so unprepared. It had been hard enough to be here, doing up her hair, so she glared at the chap, quite taken back. "Why are you whispering? We'll have none of that." But the old man just smiled, obviously drunk. He seemed so happy, despite how he stunk. And this feeling of warm contentment came flowing across as they read the story, some sort of testament. Carol felt loved in an indescribable way. She, a married woman, what would her husband say? So she turned to the old drunk, having had enough of that. He was out of order, deserving a slap. But she looked puzzled, for next to her chair was a space, a vacated air. Now Carol was confused by this unexpected news. There was no way to leave with such packed pews. But she still felt something, indeed without choice, still felt aware of that quiet, loving voice. As the music danced like amaretti biscuit wrappers, fusing, ignited, she was delighted. Listening to readings, clearly entranced, she heard the words like a fresh new romance. She hung on the words regarding Emmanuel. Deep inside, her heart seemed to swell. Whilst the beauty of the songs a midnight clear, she struggled to wipe away a genuine tear. The music echoing high up the walls, then hitting the arched ceiling, seeming to fall, a crescendo shattering across the room, all felt it, lifting life's gloom. Carol sang now for all she was worth, an angel personified, singing a virgin's birth. Now at this point, the service came to an end. Carol was alone again, lost her new friend, but in her eyes gleamed a joy, a new form of life. She felt different, no longer just a housewife. She stood tall in her 5-foot shoes, radiating happiness, shuffling the pews. She had to confess she understood now what folk meant about feeling blessed. People around her laughing and joking, no tambourine scene nor nutters approaching. Just ordinary people like Carol, who'd sat as a community in unity under the steeple. So she moved gracefully across the old tiled floor. Minutes passed quickly, soon at the door. Now time seemed to go quicker. The old bloke, apparently the vicar. "Happy Christmas! Have a great new year! See you soon!" And then her answer appeared. "Yes, you will."